Record. Yes, got it. All right, so I thought it worked well. You know, if you can do your presentation, and then they have some cards to write down some questions.
Okay, wonderful.
So we can just do the same thing we did the other day, if that's cool with you.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, I'm glad it worked well with the other two classes. So let me pull this up here for you all. Can we see this okay?
Yeah, everybody got that?
Awesome.
What happened here? Oh, there we go.
Perfect. So good morning, everyone. I am Jasmine. I'm the operations manager for Family Supportive Housing. A lot of my job includes facilitating donations, volunteers, and meals for the shelter. So here today, I'm here to talk about who we are and then what volunteer opportunities are available for you all, and then also answer any questions that you may have. So our mission at Family Supportive Housing is to provide temporary and targeted support to guide families from crisis to independent living in our communities. So a lot of the families that come into the shelter are situationally homeless. A lot of them, you know, were not expecting to having to undergo this crisis. A lot of the times, you know, just one eviction or one loss of job can put them in such a difficult position. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. We were incorporated in 1986. We used to be a warehouse setting, but now our facility is kind of like an apartment complex. Once somebody described it to me as dignified when I was giving them a tour, and that really gave me goosebumps. I love that word to describe the facility itself for our families. We help single and two-parent families, so single and two-parent households with children exclusively. We do not serve single adults. What we do to help, we provide emergency food, shelter, employment, and education. At the shelter, at this facility here that you see at the top left in San Jose, that is a residential area. So the first and second floor are communal. The third through fifth floor are residential. We have up to we have 35 rooms, so that means we can help up to 35 families at a time. And while they're there, that's obviously addressing their shelter. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the week. And they work with case managers to help with their employment and education goals, and then of course to find them reliable housing after their stay. In this figure here, how many kids stay at the shelter? Our population is about 60 to 70% kids. So you can imagine how busy it gets and how important it is to try to make it as stressful as possible for these young ones. Stressless as possible. So for the families, these are what our rooms look like. It's pretty standard. Family Supportive Housing is the only shelter in Santa Clara County that accepts the entire family. All other shelters separate families into women and men shelters. In so many cases, a 10-year-old boy would be required to go to a men's shelter while his mom goes to a women's shelter. So that's what really sets us apart, is that we keep the family together. And we're one of the few shelters in the Bay Area that does so. In every room, what also sets us apart, as I mentioned earlier, is we're not a warehouse setting, which is kind of standard for shelters. A lot of the shelters that I've volunteered at, they are communal living. Even the bathrooms are communal. So what's nice about FSH is that every family gets their own private room. Inside the room, there's a bed for every person, a table or a desk, chairs, and their own private bathroom. So as I mentioned, the adults, while they're doing the hard work to figure out what's keeping them from self-sufficiency with their case managers, we also offer programs for kids. The Homework Enrichment Program itself helps school-age children with tutoring and mentorship, and that is mostly volunteers that help us with that. We do have a coordinator who assesses the children upon move-in to try to figure out what deficits we can help with, because unfortunately, a lot of the time the kids are behind several grade levels. So we do try our best. We obviously, in that program specifically, we help with homework first, always number one priority. Whatever was assigned from school, we try to make sure that they're submitting their homework on time. And then second, any supplementary work that we can provide to help them catch up and or just refine their skills that they may be lacking. The Voyager Daycare is our daycare center that we use for evening care only, because that's the need at this time. That is for toddlers, so as long as the kids are walking to 4 years old, and that specifically helps with social and basic motor skills. Both programs run from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And the computer lab, which for the adults, of course, they use for adult workshops like financial literacy, job hunting, housing searches, resume building, interviewing prep. And that's why we offer these wonderful, that's part of the reason why we offer these wonderful evening options for childcare, so that the parents can focus on the hard work that they need to do. And then the kids also get to use the computer lab, not for recreational purposes, but for enrichment. We do have some volunteers that come on site to do programming and coding workshops, which is really fun for them. I think recently they learned how to program like Minecraft. So they were really excited about that, of course. All of these volunteer opportunities here do have a minimum age requirement of volunteers for 18 years old. And that's specifically because you work pretty independently with the kids one-on-one. So we just want to make sure that, we're holding adults, of course, are liable for anything that's going on. But for students of your age, we do allow workshops. So if anyone was interested in or has like an expertise, a specialty, a skill, whether it's, playing a specific instrument, or if you're really into drawing, then we are a smaller organization, so we welcome your creative ideas. You are encouraged to email me so we can find out how we can implement your ideas. The kids really love meeting with, other volunteers that are kind of their peers, and love doing anything creative, of course, or simple STEM projects are very popular. Another fun workshop could be like hosting a board game night or even a movie night. We do have a cool popcorn machine, so there's many possibilities. Another option also would be to form a meal team. So for every 5 underage volunteers, there should be 1 adult volunteer, and that's perfectly fine. Meal teams plan, prepare, and cook and serve meals for either breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And for more information on that, you are also encouraged to email me. That opportunity is really fun. The families love trying anything new, because unfortunately, a lot of the time, some meal teams just provide pasta. So anytime I can steer anyone away from pasta, I try to do so. So, and the families love it. Professor Gallagher was telling me that somebody is hoping to perform a Vietnamese meal team soon. So that would be incredible. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I am happy to take them now.
Max.
You kind of mentioned something called like case managers. Do you think you could go a little bit more in depth about like what they are, like what they do, and just how they help?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we do have a full staff, which is awesome, because just like most other businesses and organizations, we were going through employment like this. And because we have a full staff, that means the workload is a lot more shared. And so we have 2 case managers, 1 program shelter program manager, and then they all report to our program director. So they're, as a group, their responsibility primarily is like the one-on-one care of our families. They're working directly with our families to figure out what is going on, how we can help. Case managers specifically are play an important role because they connect. Not only are they helping with like very basic counseling and excuse me, and trying to uncover what issues we can help with, but they are kind of like the middleman to try to connect the community and the resources that maybe these families are unaware that are available to them with the families, of course. So that's primarily their major responsibility, is making sure the families know what resources are available to them, how to use them, and to try to get them into reliable housing after their stay at family supportive housing. Any
Yeah.
other questions?
Yeah, so do you know how long each family usually stay in the housing for?
Yeah, great question. The original program is up to 90 days, but because of the pandemic, we do many families that are currently residing in the shelter do have a housing voucher, which states that we can hang on to them and provide them the shelter until they actually find substantial housing. So a lot of them have been there for almost a year now, but typically the length of stay is 90 days.
Along with housing and financial care, do you offer any healthcare or mental health services?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where the case managers come in. Unfortunately, we don't have any licensed social workers on site, which I'm sure I know is a goal to have soon. But the case workers do connect the families with mental health services and physical health services. And then my role specifically, how I've helped, I connect with other like clinics in other local clinics like Planned Parenthood or Real Options, which are similar except for their core beliefs in sexual reproduction and health. So we do have these kind of partnerships with everyone, but we don't provide it, with other organizations, but we don't provide it in-house. We have to do referrals. That's a great question. Thank you.
Couple more? Yeah, Catherine.
Where do you get funding usually?
Thank you for asking. We are a nonprofit, so a lot of our funding is just donation based or grant writing. So that's our development department applying for specific grants for funding, or just a lot of longstanding corporate organization and individual family like donors.
How did you get connected to family supportive housing? Like, how did you end up this being kind of your career?
Yeah, I grew up with I was raised by a single mother. So I definitely understand or empathize with the hardship of, having very limited resources. I never really saw this as a career for myself, but and while I was in school, I did major in sociology. However, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with that degree. I was in finance at the time, and I applied to family supportive housing just on a whim for a part-time job, for a side hustle. And I ended up loving it. I finished my degree. I stayed full-time. I, just kind of carved a path for myself in the shelter, within the organization specifically. And now I'm just completely passionate about community building and helping those that are underrepresented.
That's good. Good. One more question? Yeah, Max.
After like the 90-day like stay period, how many families out of like the 36 would you say like move into more like long-term like housing situations?
I believe we are at like 70% of families. I think the government's goal is 65% HUD, housing and urban development. I think their goal for shelters is like 65%, and I think we're like at 70. What's nice is that we have a partnership with the complex that's around us. They're called King's Crossing. It is low income permanent housing. So many of our families do go there the moment there are vacancies, which is great.
good. No, yeah, Polly.
So what happens to the other like 30% of people that don't go into long-term housing?
Totally, what a great question. Unfortunately, it is the case sometimes where we do meet families who are chronically homeless. These are families that unfortunately, despite they just need much more rehabilitation than we can offer. So they might be going to different shelters. They might be going to stay with families. They might go back to couch surfing. And this is on their own fruition. Like they typically didn't want to really put in the work that is necessary to find reliable housing or reliable employment. And they're just kind of okay with their situation. That's kind of the hard truth about it as well, is that some families are just going, unfortunately, chronically homeless.
And then what does, like, if there's a family who's not getting in the family supportive housing, are they like splitting up and going different places, or what usually happens to a family who is not with you?
I'm trying to think of an example. A lot of the times it does end up being that these kind of families just end up sleeping in their cars again, just going back to whatever their situation was before they were in contact with us. The county does have a homeless prevention system in place, however, where you can dial the number and some central location will try to help you figure out what resources are available to you depending on what your needs are. There's also a lot of organizations or like a lot of churches that will do like car and I think it's like, I forget what it's called, I forget,
Yeah.
but where you could basically park your car in their lot if
Yeah.
that's your situation and unfortunately you're living in your car, and at least it's a safer place than just being anywhere on a random street. So it's very much just constant referrals, trying to figure out what works best for some families, because some families don't want to get caught up in this cycle. Some
Yeah.
families really want to do the hard work that they need to, while others, unfortunately, sometimes that's not always the case.
It's good.
Yeah, and just requires way more intervention and way more rehabilitation than we can offer.
Right. Yeah. Good. Anybody else have a question? This is like, if you ever get a chance, this is a great place to go, get a tour. And I talked to Jasmine, she's going to let me know about other opportunities that come up through this semester. So if not now, there'll be some other opportunities too. But if, the meal thing, appeals to you, that could be a project if you're still kind of struggling. It's a really fun thing to do. So
Absolutely. And like Mr. Gallagher mentioned, if you want to just come on site for a tour as well and check out the facility, I'm happy to help you with that as well.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, thanks, Jasmine. Thanks for
My
coming.
pleasure. Of
2 days in
course.
a row.
Great meeting you all. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, round of applause.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
It is kind of interesting to go there.